we're in the marketplace, and like many kind of market towns, the marketplace, if you like, defines, you know, the centre of it, the market being the kind of core purpose of the place. And for those not familiar with the sort of term market town, generally speaking, and Yorkshire's got a lot of them, we'll look at the obelisk in a minute, the market towns, in effect, were the places where produce, so if you had animals, or you're growing crops or crafts, maybe you created garments, whatever it was, you could bring your goods to market for sale. So typically market towns are surrounded by rings of villages, as you might say, and of course the markets then provide the infrastructure, and that's still the case today. It's a kind of capital town of Richmond. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm just trying to get to a place where I'm a little bit exposed to the wind, because already I'm getting kind of some gimbal issues. So I'm just trying to give you a sort of starting sense, really, of where we are. In front of us is the former Church of Holy Trinity, and the sun's right in my face, so I can't actually see what you're seeing at the minute. So I'm just pulling back, so I'm trying to get it all into shot for you without getting run over, without tripping up, which is always a slight hazard of A, looking foolish, but B, messing up your shots. So yeah, Holy Trinity, it's now the Regimental Museum of the Green Howards. We'll talk about them a little bit later on. Good afternoon. And the weather is great, Christine. Yes, we've kind of picked it fine. It's pretty cold, I'm not going to lie to you. It's fairly chilly here. But as I say, I just thought we'd start by just getting a kind of an establishing sense of where we are. So the church in front of us was first built in the 14th century. And it kind of overlooks the marketplace. And we're going to have a nice kind of walk around the marketplace and kind of pick up some of the things of interest. And I suppose the first, most obvious one here is this obelisk. And again, I can't really see because the sun's right in my eyes, but hopefully that gives you something of the sort of top to bottom of it. Does anybody have any idea what this is? You might think it's a war monument, but I'll give you a clue, it's not. It's something that has a very, very specific purpose. I just wonder, I'm going to struggle to read the chat, but I wonder if anybody knows. Watchtower? No, so that's a really good guess, actually. It's not a watchtower. It was built in 1771, and it doesn't actually need to be like this. This is a bit of kind of fully cut market cross. That's exactly what was here. So the 14th century market cross was on this spot. So a market cross basically was a cross, a Christian thing like bless our market, bless our town. You know, and it was a place that was kind of protected. The governance said of the church came in, and certain profits from the market will go to the church for the sort of religious protection of the marketplace. But no, this was actually a water dispenser. It was erected in 1771, and in the vestibules in front of us here, yes, water source, absolutely, Linda. So in the vestibules that you can kind of see coming, so we go up steps, if you can see, this is how people got their fresh water. They didn't have taps, there's no plumbing in people's houses. But underneath here, below our feet, is a huge reservoir. The whipping post, Hannah, would have been in the marketplace. I'm not entirely sure whereabouts. I suspect outside the town hall, which we're going to have a look at in a moment. Certainly that would have been the place for the courts and dispensing of justice. But and that would have always happened on kind of market days. So just trying to get you some nice sort of posts. Oh, that's a nice shot, isn't it? I like that one. Just really to give you a sense, first and foremost, really, of what this is. And so, of course, on market days where we are now, this area is absolutely rammed full with all manner of kind of stalls selling everything, you know, from these days, obviously nice things to eat, drink, garments, crafts, you know, you name it. But obviously in its heyday, it would have been very much focused on produce, livestock, things to eat, but also garments as well. Big wool production area down here, and we can trace the markets actually down here to about, I think, 1093 is the kind of the first sort of the sites of the market. So it really is kind of very, very well established. Talking about 1,000 years of history of this being, if you like, the focal point of this little corner of North Yorkshire. And in case you haven't been able to sort of get the map, or it's not entirely clear kind of where we are, kind of what we're looking at, we're in the kind of top corner of North Yorkshire. So the county that I live in is North Yorkshire, but I'm at the bottom of it in York. So Richmond is basically on the doorstep of the Dales, really. So we're very, very close to the famous Yorkshire Dales from here. And let's have a walk down towards, see if we can get out the wind, so it'll be slightly less breezy. So yeah, we're very, very near the famous Yorkshire Dales, James Herriot country for those that know. Thirsk is not too far away from here, where much of it is shot, and Grassington we're going to go to in the summer. Yeah, but it's Catterick. Well, Catterick is not at all far from here, and of course, this is another military centre. So we'll talk about it in a minute, a little bit later on, the Green Howards, when we come back to the Market Square. But I want to show you a few more bits first. So around the Market Square as well, of course, what you've got is a whole bunch of pubs. There's no less than 6 pubs. So here you see the Town Hall, next to it the Golden Lion, the Bishop's Blaze we're going to look at. But what's interesting about the Town Hall is it actually shares the building with the Town Hall. So you see the grey section in the middle, and again, I'm struggling a little bit here, guys, because the sun is so bright, believe it or not, that my screen is almost black. So you do forgive me if it's not, if I'm slightly off centre. I'm doing my kind of best, almost some muscle memory really, to kind of try and frame shots for you, because I can barely see the screen. But nonetheless, hopefully you're able to kind of get a sense. So this Town Hall building here is dates from 1756, and most of the buildings around here that we're looking at are from the Georgian era. So when we talk about the Georgian era in English history, we're talking about 4 kings by the name of George, originally from the House of Hanover. So they were German. The first 3 of them didn't actually speak English. Famously, George III was the one who went mad, you remember. So it takes us from the period of the 1680s up to about 1820 is the Georgian period of England. So it's been about 140 years, but it's very kind of influential in terms of architecture, of kind of style, of English culture. And what we get, as we've discussed many times in York, this building right in front of us here, great example, the red brick, is you get precision in architecture. There's a total abandonment of the kind of medieval buildings that look like they're about to fall over. Instead, you get neoclassical. It's all about precision. It's about architecture. It's about a world that can be controlled rather than a world that is, if you like, ordained by God. So we've gone down that theme before, so to re-explore it here. But what you'll see is that the marketplace here actually forms like a horseshoe around the church. And this is because it was what they call the bailey of the castle. And we're going to have a look at the castle keep in a moment. But the bailey, if you like, was then so you've got like a central tower of keep, which is obviously the stronghold and also the house of the Lord. But then you've got an enclosed area where the workings of the of the castle are, the garrisons, where the troops are, and where you might have markets and so forth. So this was all, at one point, was all within the castle. We're right at the top of the town, and you'll see as we kind of walk round that the gradients are kind of quite steep. It's a bit like Whitby. Those that have been on the Whitby tour with me will kind of know this is a bit like Whitby, but inland, insofar as it's all ups and downs. So it's been around for about, as I say, 1,000 years, this town, but it's only really in the last sort of 400 years that it's kind of taken its kind of modern shape. Have we passed the market hall here? I should have mentioned as well. So we've also got an indoor market here, which I'll not take us into, I don't think, because I don't know what the signal's going to be like in there. But just show you, this dates from the 1850s. This is open every day, so you can see up here. It's very cute, Victorian indoor market. And we're going to do Leeds indoor market soon as well, which is going to be a lot of fun. So you can see up there. Dates from 1854. So this is very much, obviously, an area that is dominated, if you like, by trade, by commerce, by the local community coming together to kind of sell wares here. So as I say, the marketplace here, and on Saturdays, all this extra space here also becomes part of the market. And it's said to be the largest market square in England. Now, I don't know who, when they say it's said to be, who says it? Can anybody just say it and then it just becomes, it's said? So, if you like your history sort of delightfully vague, then this is definitely the tour for you. So this is said to be the largest market square in England. But what I want to do is I want to take you now to just have a look at what sits just behind, because I was just saying that this was the outer area of the castle. So let's go and have a look at the inside area. So we're just going to take you down here, and there is a little street just here to our left-hand side. So again, as I say, we've not gone far, but you can just see how kind of wide open this side is. So say, I want you to imagine this is all the interior. Imagine that row of shops and buildings at the front, really, was old kind of castle walls surrounding it. That sense of enclosure. Does that kind of make sense? Can you kind of feeling that? Because as we go down here now, we're going to bring you to the centre of the castle, and I think you'll kind of get a real sense of the size scale. The stone, by the way, around here, very beautiful. It's all sandstone, and it's very kind of consistent. So you get a real kind of pleasing sense of continuity. Everything, looks very cute, and I hope you're kind of getting you're already kind of caught up in the vibe of this little town. It is just cute as a button. It is just lovely. And hi, Kirsty. But here we are. Here's what you've been waiting to see. Have a look at this. Now that is the keep. That is the centre point of the castle. And it is, without doubt, one of the best preserved Norman castles anywhere in England. Some people say it is the best. Do you? Should we do it? Try an Adam shot on this one, or are we happy with what we've got there? I'm very happy to do either, but it does obviously take us a moment to reset. But I think we're kind of getting that there. So, all right, so just cast your eyes away for a moment. I'll just try and get that set up for you. Okay, and you're back in the room. So what's the name of the castle? So the name of the castle, Carolyn, is Richmond Castle, named, not unsurprisingly, I'm going to spin the screen back around, not unsurprisingly, named after the town we're in, Richmond, in North Yorkshire. It really is in absolutely kind of pristine condition. And this is a very, very early castle. It was started being built in 1071, so very shortly after the Norman conquest. We'll talk about that a little bit later on when we just walk around the kind of castle area. And where it is here, it raises up about 30 metres, about 100 feet up in the air. So you imagine the visibility that gives. And of course, it's on the top of the hill as well. So you add that in, and you're really talking about the ability to kind of cast your eye right the way across, the surrounding area. So this was an almost impenetrable place. We're going to get another few shots of the castle. Don't worry. I'm just going to take you around. But it's just nice to wander, the back alleys and just get the vibe really of the town. Which, as I say, is a very... Because it absolutely jacket, and that, of course, was a huge threat. And I'll tell you about one of the raids of the Scots a little bit later on. But certainly, in this part of the world, where you're fairly close to the Scots border, there was a constant threat, obviously, of not just coming to sort of, invade and settle, but rather raiding. So coming down, sort of smash and grab raids, as you might say, to basically like a stag weekend from hell, as you might say. A bunch of Scots coming down and basically just trashing the place and taking what they want. So this, as we come around here into the back of the Bishop Blaise pub, you should be able to get another. It's the oldest pub in Richmond, a beautiful place. You'll definitely go in. It's Bishop Blaise, but just try and get you another shot here of the castle. And again, because of the sunlight, it's getting very, very dark for me. I don't know, Ginny, why you've never been here. You're here now. That's the first thing. The second thing is, you jolly well do something about it. And make sure you put it on your itinerary, everybody. I mean, as castles go, and I know you're going to see Arundel today, it is almost pristine. It's hard to believe you're looking at a building that's only 1,000 years old. And yes, of course, there'll be patchwork and repairs that have been done on it, but at the same time, it is a remarkably integral. And this was owned by Alan Rufus. And Alan Rufus, let's walk on, we'll talk a bit about the castle. So, Alan Rufus was basically a compatriot of William the Conqueror. And just a kind of brief kind of refresh, if you like, on the Norman conquest. And I think it's quite interesting to talk about the Norman conquest today. So this is when William the Conqueror conquered England, really from sort of 1066 to 1069. It took about 3 years. We talk about one Battle of Hastings. That really was just the opening salvos, isn't it? It took about 3 years to put England under control. I was thinking this morning, I was thinking about, how we talk about these things and we look at castles and we sort of feel proud of them, really. But, at the moment, the world is quite right, outraged, is it not, about what's happening in the Ukraine. But at some point, however the outcome, does it just turn into history? So we don't tend to get particularly inflamed and upset about the Norman conquest. We don't tend to think of the French as being, kind of bullying, occupiers, come and stealing resources and so forth. There comes a time where it becomes the past, does it not? I mean, perhaps certain things, maybe they don't. Maybe the Holocaust will never become the past. Maybe it will always be in the present because it's too important. But I just think it's kind of interesting that we can walk along and look at a French castle and see occupation and colonisation and not feel outraged. We just look at it in terms of the nation's story. Does that kind of make sense? That's sort of a bit of a kind of... It is beautiful. It is. Everything is just delightful. It is cute. It is attractive. It's just got an integrity to itself that I kind of really love. So, yeah, so the Norman Conquest really, obviously, was essentially, as all these things were about, was about resources. You know, coming and taking control of England, and in doing so, it gave them control of the valuable English wool industry. That's really what was at the heart of this. England was a very, very wealthy country because of its wool. And where we are now was very much part of wool producing. In the Yorkshire Dales, there's not really much to do by kind of way of arable farming. It's almost all livestock. So I'm just kind of giving you, I think it was Cordline, wasn't it, Karen? Kind of get a sense here. So we're on the banks of the River Swale, and you can see how high up we are, hopefully, as I kind of give you sort of some panning shots here. I said that, didn't I? Did I not say you're going to want to stop what you're doing and move here immediately? That is definitely what today is all about. So, it's because one of those people, English, Irish, those people. Yeah, I guess so, Joanna. I think I understand kind of what you mean. So, you know, what I mean is you know, we don't tend to we tend to accept the conquest part of history, and that's perfectly valid. And it makes sure, will everything get that status? Will at some point, does everything become so far in the past that it's simply a story rather than something that we will get agitated and upset by and feel that reparations needed to be made? Yeah, definite influx. So we're on Castle Walk, which is going to promenade because this is a very popular town with visitors in the Georgian area. And they created this Castle Walk, which we're going to follow in a moment. You can you see the tower in front of you? That's called the Culloden Tower. It's a folly. So a folly, so a folly really is basically something that's just built because it looks nice. They're very popular with the aristocracy and the landholders to basically just, you know, put nice architectural details into spaces where they thought they would kind of look cool, or a joke. So sometimes, yeah, indeed, sometimes they're also architectural joke, as you might say. But this one is named Culloden Tower. So apologies to the Scots, but it is celebrating the Hanoverian victory over the Jacobites at the Battle of Culloden in 1746. So let's kind of have a walk down, and I'll give you a kind of sense of this Castle Walk. Because as I say, this was built as a promenade. So those that know about the kind of your Georgian society, they love nothing better than to get dressed up, to wander around in their glad rags and their finery, and to basically look good. I mean, it was very much a sort of a society based on sort of conspicuous consumption. You know, wealth was displayed in clothing, finery, wigs. Strut the stuff, exactly. Strut the stuff. So, you know, wherever, and of course, you know, Ginny's part of the world down in Brighton, another very famous kind of Georgian resort under George IV, the pavilion and so forth. So it was all about being there, being seen to be there, looking good, taking part, you know, but having deep pockets. You know, this was not a cheap society to look good in. I think the gimbal made captures on this, but I'm just going to try and give you some wicked postcards of the Castle Walk before we head down the other side. Because there's a couple of really cute little things I want to show you on the kind of way down towards the river, which it would be a shame to miss out on, even though it is lovely. But I think you get a sense, really, of quite how impenetrable this castle is. And, you know, the castle itself was never really taken. There was various kind of Scots raids, and the town was wrecked in the 14th and the 15th century by Scots. But at the same time, it was then in effect abandoned as a castle, and so in some respects, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It was just kind of left to do its own thing, and it's obviously perched very, very steeply. So in a minute, we'll get a shot of the swale. I'm just going to take us around to where I did a little film this morning. And you'll kind of get, hopefully, a sense of we're right at the top of the town. And obviously to get here, you'd be, in effect, climbing a hillside, and then you've got an impenetrable castle, sort of right at the top. So this was not a place where you could easily lay siege, where you could look to conquer it, where you could look to kind of attack it with stealth. You would have to really commit all your resources in the long run to try and kind of take a castle, you know, of this nature. I'll just try and get to thing of the river Swale, but it's so windy down here. I'm worried the sound might start to go, but also the gimbal as well. So I'm just going to give you a little taster of the river at the bottom there, and then I'm going to take us down the side. So as I say, the Castle Walk does, and I think next time I do, I'll take a longer. I'll maybe do this as a 60-minute tour, so we can do the castle walk as well. But for today, let's say a little taste the first time round. I think that we'll head down, because there's a couple of little funky things that I want to show you along the way. Well, more than a couple of funky things. There's lots of funky things I want to show you, and we're already 20 minutes into the tour. So that suggests that the best way is for me to get on, and as ever, thank you, Anne. That's very kind of you. So I hope you're enjoying the North Yorkshire sunshine. I hope you're enjoying your first experiences, for those that is, of the rather delightful market town of Richmond here in North Yorkshire. So we will have a wander down for a moment, and I will show you. Here's the gateway. So everything basically is worked around the castle. So you imagine the castle, we've got the central keep, remember where the marketplace was, is the central internal workings of the castle. So of course you then had to find ways for people to get in and out that actually weren't living here, weren't based here. And so what I'm going to show you next is one of the gates that was created. You can't stay forever. Well, you can move here. That's what you should do. You should move here. It is very, very cool. And it's got great 4G. I mean, wouldn't you imagine a place like this, where I am now? Now, those who've been to Whitby, you'll know what I'm talking about now, right? It's just got that feel. Just got that feel of Whitby, to me. The rooftops, higgledy-piggledy. Really charming. No seagulls, though. So, maybe if I piped seagulls. So, what I've got here, coming up, is what they call the bar. And this was a gateway created in 1312 to allow people from outside to visit the market. I'll try and give you a shot from here. And we'll go for the other side as well. Less salty indeed. Indeed less salty. Isn't that pretty? I mean, look at that. You know, if somebody doesn't get do we still do postcard of the week? Because I guarantee there's some shots on here. So I'll just show you this sign so you can then see. So the bar is the postern gate built around 1312 to basically hold off the Scots incursion. So they basically improved the fortifications of the town, and it gives access from the bridge for the river to the marketplace. So I'll just take us down so we can get a shot from the other side as well. And as I say, you can just get a sense of quite the gradients we're coping with. So again, very similar to Whitby in that respect, that it's very much up and down. But of course, that's intrinsic to the defence of the city, of the castle, is the ability to keep people out. So you can get a sense here. Very pretty, huh? So it's got quite a French feel to it as well, I think, at times, this town. It does remind me. Oh, Jackie, I'm delighted that you are seeing things that you've not seen. So let's walk onwards and upwards, because there's still plenty more we want to see. And time, as ever, is not our friend. So let's keep walking. A bit uphill this bit, so if I run out and this is one of the wines, and this is the wines, I think they're called, WYND. And it's basically narrow passages that link together two of the main routes. And it's a Norse term from Vander, which means to turn. So it's turning. And that's a reminder of the fact that prior to the Norman conquest, prior to the French coming in, winning a series of decisive battles, and then obviously the full conquest of England, this was all under Viking control. So this was Norse lands. So consequently, some of the street names, well, a lot of street names actually, are reflecting the fact. So we're going to head back towards the market now, but I want to take us down to see the friary, have a look at the theatre, which I'm hoping to do an indoor tour of the theatre here, because it's an unbelievably brilliant theatre here, the oldest working theatres in the country. So let's just bring you on. I hope we're all enjoying ourselves, enjoying the North Yorkshire sunshine, and enjoying one another company. So, back to the marketplace. Thank you, Sam from Bristol. I am going to pull my trousers. I'm going to do my trousers. So, going past the Talbot Hotel, another one of the hostelries. Oh no! And the name Richmond, by the way, is associated with the Earls of Richmond. And Henry VII was the Earl of Richmond. He was the first Tudor king, the king that became King Henry VII after the War of the Roses, after the defeat of Richard III at Bosworth. And because he was the Earl of Richmond, and he became king, and he moved down to London, he had a palace built at a place called Sheen. And he changed its name to Richmond, which is where Paul Endicott often takes us, down to Richmond. Those of you across the pond, I'm sure we'll know Richmond in the Virginia state. He's again out of Virginia in London. And I think there's about 100 and odd Richmonds around the world. But this one's the first one. Sort of. It actually was named from the French. It means Richmond, which means a splendid hill. So when Alan Rufus saw this place, he felt this was the place. He'd been granted this vast estate for being loyal, for supporting William the Conqueror, for fighting alongside him and conquering the north. He was given this hugely valuable estate, huge tracts of North Yorkshire, and here he called the splendid hill Richmond. So Richmond, whether you're in Virginia, whether you're in London, anywhere else in the world, it starts with the Normans, a Richmond, a splendid hill, and we are stood right at the top of it. So there is a Richmond. The rest, yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is the real deal. This is Richmond. So now you know that. I was going to tell you about this, wasn't I? So within the church here, let's mention this before we disappear, is the Museum of the Green Howards. And the Green Howards is also known as the Yorkshire Regiment. They originally were formed in 1688 and have a history that has seen them involved in almost every major conflict. They came back here after the Crimean War and barracks were built, which kind of moved out there, I think, in 1972. Incredibly distinguished. If we've got any serving or former military people, you'll know that the Green Howards are one of the great English regiments. There is a museum here that I would like to visit. So this started off, obviously, as the Church Holy Trinity. But over time, as we're about to see, that there's another church down at the bottom becomes the main parish church. So this now houses the museum of the Green Howards. And there's some wonderful costumes in there. So I'm hoping that what I can do is I can come back later in the year and I'd like to do the internal of the theatre, the internal of the museum, and a town tour. And if I can do that in 2 days, that would be a lot of fun. But let's move on, because there's loads more to see. And we need to go down Friars Wand to do so. It's past the Georgian Theatre Royal. So, there you go. You see the little figurines at the top there of the Georgian gentleman and lady. So we'll go down the van. And we've got another postern gate in front of us. So again, you remember we saw a few minutes ago the walls that have been created in 1312 to basically control access, to prevent the Scots just coming in and doing these smash and grabs. But also as a taxation point as well. You think people are coming to market from the outside, you charge them for their stalls on the way in. You don't want on the way out pleading poverty, say, oh, I didn't sell anything. Tough, you know. You pay first. So what they also act as like taxation points, control points. So this is the Friars Wind Gateway. I'll just give you a little shot. There we go. Yeah, I believe it is, Jackie, because as I say, it's a Nordic term, so they are used across northern England. I'll do a shot from the other side as well. I don't know about elsewhere. I know there are quite a few around here, but they are particularly prevalent here in Richmond. So, again, I mean, how nice is that? Just such a interesting. Yeah, it contrasts really nice, kind of the colour of the bricks. Scotland as well. Okay, Ginny, makes a lot of sense. So I guess it probably depends whereabouts you are, because the Vikings predominantly were on the eastern side of Britain. There was settlement, of course, with Alfred the Great, which basically annexed England and cut it in half. And half was what they called the Danelaw, so under the control of first Guthrum and a series then of Viking leaders. So you paid your royalties, if you like, to the Viking warlords. So I'll just cross over and I'll get you a shot of the theatre, because we're now at the back of the theatre, and this really is a kind of wonderful asset. And I'm hoping that we can do a tour at some point and go and have a look inside the theatre, because it is absolutely magnificent. If you haven't had a look, Google the Georgian Theatre. It's one of the oldest surviving theatres in the country, and it is totally authentic on the inside. The Georgian Theatre Royal. The whole boxes, the whole thing is just one of it. You're looking at a back annex of it, so you're not really getting the best side of it. But it's said to have the oldest scenery in England. Got scenery painted over 200 years ago, and it's almost totally unchanged. So it's a real kind of wonderful asset, and I'm really hoping that at some point I can get you inside there to do a tour, because it is very, very special. I've been to a few productions here. If anybody has been, if you have, you will know it is specially did. But onwards we are going to go, because I want to take us now down to have a look at the Friary. So in through the gardens here, we've got, this is what's called Friary Gardens. So, as I say, tour guides dream this place, because everywhere's really close together. But there's some really brilliant things here. So I think it all hopefully is making up for an enjoyable tour. First time in Richmond. Those that join us who've never been here before on Heygo. Just quickly show you the War Monument. Because we always feature them on the tours if I see them. It's always a nice thing to do, I think, to give you a sense. And you're seeing there the friary in the background. So we're going to have a look at that up close. Then used to go often. Very nice. I'll just come this side first and see rather nice carving that we've got over here. So the friary, for those who don't know, friars were sort of types of monks, and they tend to go in colours. Black friars, white friars, but these were grey friars here. And grey friars were Franciscans. So, just show you this carving, we'll talk a bit about the Franciscan order. So, what do we know about the Franciscans? I'm sure, thank you, Lorraine. I'm sure you'll have heard of St. Francis of Assisi, who loved, of course, animals. And I suspect that is why this is here, isn't it? So this carving is very pretty, isn't it? See the hair down there? So give me another second to have a take that in. Lovely, isn't it? Quite charming. So yes, St. Francis founded the Franciscan order, if you like, and it was very controversial, the Franciscan order, because they challenged the idea of the church. They believed in poverty. We are in Richmond in North Yorkshire. They believed firmly in poverty. They believed that Jesus was poor, so the church should be poor. And you can imagine, for the bishops, for the cardinals, for the Pope that lived in great palaces, covered in gold and artworks, this was quite a threatening idea, to say that the church should give away all its possessions. So for a long time, absolutely Joseph believed in poverty. They were treated as heretics. And it wasn't until the last minute of what they call the Fourth Lateran Council in 1215 that Pope Innocent III allowed them to become part of the Catholic Church. Because up until that point, it was very, very likely the Franciscans were going to be burned at the stake. If any of you have read Umberto Eco's The Name of the Rose, that covers this period of history. It's a very, very good book. Quite a dense read, but you'll certainly feel like you've learned an awful lot. So they arrived here in 1244 into England. And this friary is, I think, a wonderful example of what's left of the kind of bell tower. The space beyond us here is they didn't like that at all. This green space here in front of us obviously is where the buildings of the monastery would have been. You've got kind of later Georgian buildings over on this side that obviously have occupied that space. But let me just come round again and you get a sort of sense. So yeah, so the Franciscans were very much into working with kind of local populations, and the other major benefit they had here is before the obelisk and the water source in the town, this was the place that people came for water. So consequently, they had a very strong relationship with the local people. I'm going to give you another Adam shot in a moment just to try and get all this in, because I know this is a rather kind of difficult. So just look away if you get a bit motion sick. I'm just going to turn it round and try and give you. I'm going to move back a little bit, I think. So this dates from the abbey originally dates from the middle part of the 13th century, but this is part of the 15th century kind of rebuild. So very, very significant sums. I'm just going to flip us back now. Very significant investment was coming in from pilgrims, from patrons and so forth, obviously to help with the... But as you can see, it would have been very grand. There's an interpretation board actually on the other side. I'll see if I can just get you a shot of that, and then, thank you, Steve, you'll be able to read up a little bit about that at your leisure, because we need to head down if we're going to not run too much over. Is there anybody following me? Does it matter if I run a little bit late? I don't know. I'll try and keep us to time, because it's a good discipline, but because there's so much to show you. Look at that. How cool is that? How cool is that? So yeah, the Franciscans were one of the what they call the mendicant orders. And so mendicants, typically, they were preachers, and they walked among population. So they weren't a closed order. It wasn't about going into a monastery taking a vow of silence. It was about working with kind of local people. So as we kind of pass back through, now we've got some beautiful, just public laid out gardens. Originally this was part of a private garden, but given over to now a public park and a recreation space. So I think it's lovely, and I want to take us down next. I want to take us down to work our way down to the water side. But on the way, we'll have a look at the the museum, and then try and finish up by the waterfalls. So, how much we managed to pack into a short tour? Nothing till 12:30. Okay, Jackie, so I'm not going to worry too much about running over, but I do need to actually be away to pick up my lady wife, because that's why I'm in this part of the world. Because I took her somewhere this morning and I need to collect her and get her back to York. So we'll try and stick reasonably to the time, but not worry quite too much if we run over a little bit. So I was saying about the Theatre Royal here, and we're back by the Theatre Royal, that this has got very, very important linkages with the arts, this town. Not least because it's got this fabulous theatre, but also in these two pubs here, or rather the Turf Hotel, which appears like two pubs but is one sort of building, was notoriously a place where illicit dramas were held. Under the rule of Oliver Cromwell, we had the Puritans, right? So we got rid of Charles I, English Civil War, you remember that? Head cut off, and then Oliver Cromwell, and these kind of fiercely militant Puritans, Protestants, come home, and they take control of everything, and they are very much against fun. They don't like singing, they like dancing, they hate theatre, they see it as frippery, things that are just going to get in the way of basically work and Bible study. That's what they see, as kind of the things that adults should be doing. So there's lots and lots of illicit drama, and this place here in front of us, the Turf Hotel, was one of the scenes for it. So all the time that Oliver Cromwell thought it was being banned, really what he'd done is he'd driven it underground, which is what always happens, isn't it? Whenever you try and ban things. Yeah, Linda, isn't it? Yeah, let's just give you a look. Now, a Thai restaurant, but again, just look at the detailing on offer. I mean, this really is a town to kind of savour. As I say, I think I'm going to do a longer tour next time I come, because I'm really just having to give you little skippy little bits, because I wanted to give you as much of a kind of a feel for it as possible. But I think you'll all agree this is certainly a place that is worthy of a Heygo tour in its own right. As I say, what I often do with the surprise tours is it's me coming down, testing it out, seeing if it'll work. If it doesn't, I'll jump in the car and go somewhere to find a 4G signal. That's the kind of way it works. So I don't always have a specific destination in mind. But I think this is well worth coming again, spending a bit more time trying to get us inside one or two of the museums in terms of theatre, and turning it into a full day of fun in Richmond in North Yorkshire. King Street, very good, Joyce. Are you following the map, or do you know the town very, very well? Or are you a lucky guess? Any of them are completely valid, but and again, all this stone evidence I was talking about earlier, so the local sort of sandstone is very kind of consistent. There's no sort of variation, and it gives a very pleasing, I think, aspect to the town that you've got this kind of continuity everywhere of the same stonework. Thank you, Jackie, for that link. I can't quite read what that is because of the sun in my eyes, but very nice property there. I wonder how much that cost. Probably don't want to know, but I quite like that. I'll live there. Right, what have we got next? So the museum. The museum. That's kind of nice. So again, like a lot of, thank you, Linda. Again, like a lot of rural towns in North Yorkshire, they have a kind of everyday life museums that kind of capture and give us an understanding of everyday life in the past. So very much social history, kind of rural history going on. And so they're always good fun to go. And at some point, I'll talk to the museum and see if I can get us inside to do a tour and perhaps work with the curators and do something to help fundraise for them. But for today, just like to show you the externals. And what we've got here, I'm guessing some of you will at least know what's on there. So I've got a friendly nod from a museum guy there. That seems to say, yes, please come and talk to me at some point. You know what this is? Was that a mangle? Absolutely. So what do we use a mangle for, Lynn? For those that don't know, any younger viewers, mangles, of course, yeah, absolutely, washing. And so it's what sort of getting liquid out, isn't it? So this handle, of course, would turn. That's it, squeezing water out. So you've done all your washing, and then you want to wring as much water out as possible. So everything passed between these two rollers here, and that squeezes the moisture out. Here in front of the museum, we've got the former drinking fountain, absolutely pristine, from that was right in the market square, but was moved, I think, in the 1980s to be in front of. Oh, grandfather's system, that's awful, isn't it? So, again, you obviously had fresh water. This is obviously before people frequently had running water in their homes. So it's a rather lovely thing, isn't it? But onwards and upwards, we are. Plenty more to see yet. So hopefully you enjoy. So really, do people actually remember their childhoods? They were still kind of around. I mean, I've always known what they were, but I don't remember anybody using it. Although I'll be honest, when I was a kid, my grandma used a twin tub washer. We had like one machine, was top loaded, but it was one machine. My grandma for years had a twin tub. You guys know what twin tubs are? Like a separate machine. Like, so you'd put the washing in one side, then you'd lift it out and put like a spinner next to it. So yeah, Linda too, right? Okay. So it's an age thing, and I'm sort of, well, my early 50s aren't, so I'm remembering things from my grandparents. Some of you might remember from your parents or your grandparents, I don't know, but obviously a lot of this history collectively, we all kind of share the same sort of appliances, the same sort of furniture, because most of us generally from regular working class backgrounds, I guess. Don't think many of us are from the super wealthy, but if you are, well done, enjoy it, hope you had a nice time. But for most of us, fairly ordinary, typical backgrounds. Modern version 60s, yeah, well, obviously I'm talking, Sandra, remembering this from probably the mid-70s onwards, so they were clearly, I don't think it was still widely in use. My grandma and granddad just didn't have much money, and so it wasn't broken, so they didn't fix it, as you might say, and that's what she was used to using. Now, as Richmond grew, with success of the markets, with the wool and textiles, it grew to the west, it grew down this side, down the riverside, and I'll explain why when we get down to the riverside. But it meant that it needed a new church, because the church, another crushed thumb. This is the new church, although the new church actually dates from 1137, so it's Norman, but originally Holy Trinity at the top was what you call a mother church, in other words, the parish church. So the focal point of town worship was there, so all the kind of civic stuff would happen. This Church of St Mary the Virgin was the lesser of the two churches. But actually, as the town grew and it spread westward, so you can see now we're coming down. So if you've noticed, we're being kind of gradually working our way down. We start at the top of the castle, which is kind of behind us, and we're kind of working our way down now to the bottom end and to the river. What we've kind of got is the development of the town working down. So the Church of St Mary the Virgin, and again, next time we come, perhaps spend a little more time, but I haven't really got time today, because I want to get us down to the river. We'll have a look, because the one thing you will notice as we go past is quite how big the graveyard is. It is absolutely enormous. It's obviously that, the sort of town cemetery really is all sort of encapsulated within it. So what looks like a sort of fairly regular-sized church at the beginning, as you go around, just appears to have a graveyard that kind of goes on forever. So, and it's always fun, isn't it? It's so atmospheric to walk through graves. And we still talk about trapping things in mangles, honestly. Let's move on to higher things. Let's think about life and death and spirituals, and not mangles. So yeah, isn't it nice though? The sun is catching on the stonework. It really is a lovely church. But as I say, what you can see is as I sort of pan down this way, I'm losing my trousers at the minute. Very, very large. Now we're just seeing the rear now of Richmond School. So we're going to see the front elevation of that. It's a rather well-appointed independent school. Very, very nice school. High academic expectations, but oh, Shasta goes, oh, I see, okay, you are forgiven. I don't mind, talk about what you like. It's just when I try and read it, occasionally, because the sun's been bright, I think I've explained a couple of times so far, when it's bright and sunny, what can happen is you can't always see the screen so well. And so at times when the light comes up, and then I can read the screen, you were talking about mangles a minute ago, trapping your fingers, then it did it again, it happened again, so I thought, what, it's still talking about mangles, but I get that now. If the thing's sort of freezing and gumming up a little bit, that will explain it, and you're forgiven. So, again, we're still walking past, just trying to get us down to the river now, we're still walking past the graveyard, so you get a sense now, look at the church is sort of behind us, so you've got a very, very sort of substantial, much larger than normal, terraced graveyard, and like many English country graveyards, you'll notice the height. I would say that's probably about 6 foot in height. And of course that means it's literally jam-packed full of bodies. The headstones you can see, well, I'm sure will be largely of Victorian 20th century, but there will be centuries of bodies underneath that. It's only really fairly recent that graves were really marked. You might put a memorial stone in, but that didn't necessarily indicate where a body had been interred. One of the problems we'll hear about on Thursday on Mary Ann Carlton is actually finding bodies in graveyards, but I shall hold that and just let's go down. So in front of us, we've got a beautiful bridge, what's called the Mercury Bridge, built in 1857. A real kind of stunning sight, and we're down now by the River Swale, so we're right at the bottom of the town. Yeah, very healthy trees. The whole place is green, verdant, you know, is absolutely blooming. Isn't that a pretty bridge? Mercury Bridge, absolutely, Joyce. Joyce is on her game today. She really is it. So this is the River Swale, and the River Swale is one of the fastest running rivers in England, if not the fastest. And the benefit of that means that it is great for water powering. So, as I spin round here, and you can now see the front elevation of the rather, frankly, quite grand Richmond School. Okay, it'll appear to have this beautiful, uninterrupted vista all the way down to the river. But that simply wasn't the case. What you had down here was a bunch of water mills. And so you'll see what they've done to, a bit like at pit heads, they put in the place where the pit winch has been. Here they've done it with millstones. So you see the millstone, I'll try and get the school in the back, and the millstone. That's indicated where one of the mills was. So the mills basically were about grinding, weren't they? You know, or washing, or powering wool machines, or whatever they were. You know, these were working parts of the wool industry. And you're taking advantage of the fact that you've got this very, very fast-moving water down here, down by the River Swale. And the Swale actually runs into the River Ouse, where we are at York. Eventually, it takes about a course about 60 miles to do so it kind of winds around. And that, of course, as I'm sure many of you will know now from being on my tours about flooding, is York's challenge. York sits at the bottom of a valley, and so as a result, the water here, when it rains here, and it's coming into the Swale and other rivers upstream from York, it then heads right the way back down to York on its way out to the sea. So I'll just give you a kind of vista. You can see there, hopefully now, you see the castle at the top. You can see, if you like, you know, we're now at the bottom. So that gives you a sense of quite how well defended this place was, quite how impenetrable it was. You know, this was not an easy place to attack. It was a very important place to hold. So you can see why, you know, this was the splendid hill. As far as the French were concerned, the Richmond is in front of us, because down by the Swale, down by the waterside, and the water is glinting beautifully in the sunshine. It does. The river always goes out to the sea, Joyce. At some point, it has to, isn't it? That is the universal law of kind of physics, biology, geography, I suppose, really, isn't it? You know, eventually all water will flow to sea, unless you're in a lake, of course. So that's not true at all. I must have completely made that up, that law. So completely scratch what I just said, ignore me, and say rivers rather than lakes, of course. Thank you. Is that Elise from Glasgow? So just a really nice sense now of kind of open parkland. You know, we've seen, obviously, you know, the cute alleyways, the wines, the buildings, and now we're getting something rather different, just a wide open vista now. You can see the town is kind of perched above us. It feels like we're at the bottom of the hill. We are at the bottom of the hill. But there's more to see just yet, because I want to keep us on the water side. So I don't know what we're like for time, but again, I can't really see the screen from here. I think if you just sort of see from the water there quite how much the sun is shining, sorry, just tripped over there, how much the water's shining on the river, it gives you a kind of sense of quite how bright and sunny it is today, which is lovely. I mean, it's certainly not a complaint by any stretch, but as I say, it does make it somewhat difficult for me to be able to see. So, is there any questions that I've missed? Because we're coming towards the end, but right now I can see, and I'm just going to take it up to see the waterfall, where we're going to kind of finish off. So, is that Melanie? Melanie just joined. You're very welcome here in Richmond, North Yorkshire. We will be going again at some point, but we're almost at the end of our tour today. A river start at the mountain, go down to the sea, wind down through the countryside. Yeah, thank you, Joanne. So this is obviously high areas, and so this is a much higher area. York sits pretty much at sea level. Up here, you know, by the top, you know, you're probably 800 metres or so. Not hugely much higher, but you know, compared to some European places, but significantly higher above sea level. So again, you can see. I'll just turn you around here. You see the steps there, abandoned sections of buildings that were here, that were basically, as I say, taking advantage of the fact of this very, very fast-moving currents of the water that basically enabled the driving of machinery. So water power, and it's something that, of course, we need to go back to, isn't it? You know, it's in terms of renewable energy and so forth. Wave power, I know they say it's expensive, but it seems like it's got to be part of our future energy mix, particularly given the kind of geopolitics going on right now. Sorry, I'm losing the gimbal, so just while we're walking down this bit, I'm going to re-gimbal so we can get the last few shots, because this last bit is too nice for us to miss.
And Marrick Priory. I don't know where Marrick Priory is. Thank you, Judy. Thank you.
So again, another one of the markers indicating this has been a site of some industrial buildings. So all the way down here, you'd have had a series of power mills that were involved in the textile industry, because there's so much wool sheep farming in this part of the world. I'm still lost the gimbal, so I'm going to try that much help. Because the fact it's not great for planting arable, but sheep don't mind being up hillsides, and so of course the original English wool economy was based on production of textiles and cloths. English cloth was much valued all the way around the world, and that's why the Normans came and took it from us. So that's the reason. In the same way that obviously Putin's got whatever reasons that he's got for justifying his invasion. For the French, it was in effect to take control of the valuable revenues that were coming from the English textile and wool trade, and a large part of it was generated out here. So just coming to our final bit, and we're going to go a bit Albert style. I'm going to take you into a waterfall. So I don't know what the volume's going to be like. It's it can get noisy. It's not a huge waterfall, but I think it's a very beautiful one, and of course this gives you a sense of the power, why it's moving so much, the river. I'm going to get us down as close as we can into the space, get you close, but when we turn round, thank you, Christine, I think we are in postcard of the week territory. So I do hope you've been snapping as you've been going along, because I think this is very fine. As I turn around and give you a shot upwards, I think you are going to look. Yes, it's not especially high, this waterfall. It's only probably about, it's going to be falling only about maybe 10 feet, but it doesn't matter, because obviously it's the collective force of the water, isn't it, rather than the drop, if you like, that defines it. But this space here is what is creating the turbulence and the movement in the water that made it the perfect spot for stop here, but I'm going to get closer. The perfect spot for the mills. So it became a very, very important site. And of course, the other good thing about having water that moves like this is when you've got to wash wool fleeces, and you've got to get the grime off it, you've got to get the grease off it, use two things. One is very soft water, which is here, very, very soft water in the dales in this part of Yorkshire, but also urine, stale urine. So quite literally, in those days, people took the piss, excuse my language. People who, if you know anybody called Fuller, the surname Fuller was the job of collecting urine. So people would literally pee in a bucket, fill the bucket, and then they would sell it afterwards. And that was extremely good at getting the grease and grime off sheep's fleeces. So that's kind of where that came in. So when you combine the soft water with the movement, so to get all the rubbish, all the crap out of the fleeces, that's what it's used for. So here we are, little walkway, right now, into the heart of the waterfall. I don't know how well you can hear, but how's that? Yeah, Ginny, we're going to definitely going to go again. It's a trial run today, but definitely going to do this one again. I've really enjoyed it. Just get you right down to the end of the walkway. You can see the gulls are clearing ahead of me. You should, Lynn. You should definitely come again. Isn't the noise of water amazing? Thank you. I'm glad that you've enjoyed it. Thank you, everybody who has left tips. They're always very, very generous and very grateful. It helps to cover the cost of putting this on. And now, does it feel like I'm being all Albert now, aren't I? Yeah, we'll do the same with you next time. So who feels like it's an Albert kind of moment? You know, we're right in the midst of nature. I'll give you another one of those shots so you get a sense, thank you, Hannah, of being at the bottom of this wonderful fortified town. Hopefully you enjoyed the castle. And those of you that know that I love nothing more than a water metaphor, a thought crossed my mind when I came here about an hour ago. And I often talk about how as voyagers we're like water, aren't we? Look how still it is this side. And that's us, isn't it? You know, we rub along as societies, as people. But from time to time, things happen in the world, like what's happening in Ukraine now, which cause us to think differently. And it seemed to me that this beautiful, tranquil scene, you turn around, you look at this. This is the power of what water can do when it comes together. This is the power of collective action, ladies and gentlemen. This anger, this ferocity, this power, this constant pressure is something we can all do, we can all apply. We can all think about how we can help with the situation. We don't have to be tranquil. We can be powerful when we need to be. And we need to work together like the water droplets do here. And the truth, honesty and justice will play out. So thank you, everybody. I do hope that you have enjoyed your tour, your time here with me in North Yorkshire. And as ever, it's been an absolute delight. I am eagerly anticipating coming back, and I think we'll look to do something in the middle of summer. But from now, I'm going to leave you with a wave, and I'm going to leave you with a shot looking over the waterfall. So thank you so much, everybody. It's been an absolute delight. Do leave a review, please. It's a brand new tour. No one's done it before, so leave a review so that I've got the feedback. People can see that it's a destination of choice. Do a Facebook post if you can, and tell people this is a destination of choice. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye from beautiful, historic Richmond in North Yorkshire. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.